Years ago, I worked at a small liberal arts college coordinating an interdisciplinary experiential learning program where several faculty members stepped outside of their disciplines to teach together. Our program director and my mentor, Dan Stifler, would tell me how much he valued teaching in this collaborative environment. The power in learning, he said, resides around the table, where everyone sits, teachers and students, reading and discussing a work or an idea, sometimes for the first time. These teachers desire and courage to take the risk of reading material outside the realm of their expertise and then grappling with it in front of their students and colleagues always impressed me. They were modeling what it means to be a lifelong learner. They set the standard for openness, critical thinking, and active engagement. They were facilitating what Bell Hooks would call democratic learning, one of the themes in her book, Teaching Critical Thinking, Practical Wisdom. In this compilation of 32 commentaries, Hooks responds to teachers' questions and then leads us in a conversation designed to inspire and move us to teach in radical yet practical ways. The topics she explores are rich and varied, ranging from critical thinking, imagination, purpose, and collaboration, to using humor, telling stories, crying, and negotiating conflict. Though the topics are not connected by one universal theme, she tells us, quote, all emerge from our collective desire to understand how to make the classroom a place of fierce engagement and intense learning. This is her ultimate purpose. Bell Hooks is an activist, a teacher, writer, theorist, and culture critic. She grew up in Kentucky in the midst of extreme racial tension and reform. She attended all black segregated schools in the 1950s and was taught by all black teachers. Because of this learning environment, Hooks says she could not imagine that there were teachers in the world who believed that she was incapable or undeserving of education. On the contrary, she learned that college was the ultimate dream, the place where ideas could flourish, where she could be free to think and interact intellectually. She believed that education was the answer to social justice and the ultimate source of liberation. However, when she arrived at Stanford University, she discovered racist teachers and the perpetuation of dominator culture. She was pushed to the margins. Many academics were proclaiming to be democratic educators, but nothing was changing. Old hierarchies of race, class, and gender remained intact. She felt so compelled to reform education that she began to write about it. When Hooks discusses engaged pedagogy in her book, she describes a teaching purpose that nurtures self-awareness, self-development, and self-actualization. It is when she learned to focus on this realm of human development that she truly learned to love teaching, to love her students and the classroom. Schools, she believes, are not to be vocational training grounds. They must be accessible places where students can learn to be active participants in democracy. Schools must encourage an ongoing commitment to social justice. They must invite diverse experiences, conflicting points of view, and even dissent. Cultivating a democratic classroom requires an open invitation to critical thinking. The critical thinking process moves away from the sage on the stage and places the teacher alongside the students in a dialogue at the table. Thinking is interactive and interrelational, inviting a sort of call and response between student, teacher, and peers. The most successful classrooms, Hooks believes, are developed when we pay close attention to who we are teaching. Where are they from? How do they know and understand each other? What motivates them? What do they believe in? Education's integrity is grounded in this holistic approach, teaching emotional intelligence as well as content. We must create an atmosphere of what Hooks calls a radical openness in our classrooms. Students must feel secure, an authentic sense of belonging, before they can ever feel safe enough to think openly and critically and respond to disparate or conflicting perspectives and narratives. Her idea of a safe place is not the superficial, keep the peace, conflict adverse kind of place that so many so-called safe classrooms have become today. Rather, it is a place that feels safe enough to grapple with the tension, to negotiate the conflict. It invites in the tough topics that we might not want to hear about or consider and unpacks them, and even allows them to stick around a while. Hooks confesses that the life of the culture critic is challenging. Our society does not warmly embrace questions that shift paradigms or challenge the status quo. But she reminds us that, quote, there is a useful distinction between critique that seeks to expand consciousness and harsh criticism that attacks or trashes. Good teaching, engagement, human connection, critical thinking expands consciousness. Good teaching stirs our imaginations, inspires us to act, and leads us to liberation. It keeps us in touch with the world beyond ourselves.